What's happening, film fans? Hope you're all good. This is going to be the first in a series exploring the works of Bruce Lee, because this week has seen the release by Arrow Video of the limited edition Bruce Lee at Golden Harvest set, which includes not just his films at Golden Harvest, incidentally, but all of his films that he made as an adult, which is Big Boss, Fist of Fury, Way of the Dragon, Enter the Dragon, and then the incomplete Game of Death, coupled with the 1978 version of Game of Death, which has nothing to do with Lee because obviously he passed away by that point, and also Game of Death 2, aka Tower of Death, which, if you're a Lee fan, you're probably going to think is a piece of crap anyway, so don't really care about Game of Death 2, Tower of Death, but it's nice that it's in the set anyway for like completists' sake. Yeah, this set's kind of been released to celebrate the 50th anniversary since Lee's passing at the untimely age of 32, which is still shocking to think about, really, and is also the 50th anniversary of the release of Enter the Dragon. Enter the Dragon is, like I say, it's on this set, but it's Blu-ray only. The rest are 4K and Blu-rays. It's a 10-disc set. I will show you what it is now, what it's like, because I got it right here, and it's pretty heavy. You could kill someone with it. It's a lethal weapon. I was kind of shocked by the size of it. I love the spine. I love the Golden Harvest logo there. That's pretty awesome. Like I say, all the films in 4K and Blu-ray, apart from Enter the Dragon, which is Blu-ray only. But yeah, I'll do a series of videos basically reviewing each of the releases, watching the special features that are on here, which of course there are loads of. This is the yellow edition of this box set. Arrow released 2. This is the store exclusive, and then there's the red one. The red one I think has proved more popular with fans because of the designs and the artwork, particularly on the slipcovers inside. I actually prefer, I think, the yellow. I got both because I'm an idiot. I'm indecisive, but I think I do prefer the yellow on kind of seeing both. It's still sealed because I've yet to, of course, watch them. I've seen all the films before multiple times. I'll get into that in a second. But yeah, this has got tons of extras on. It's got like a 200-page hardback book, posters, art cards, all that glossy stuff. And then it's got multiple cuts, variant cuts of particular films. So it's got the Mandarin cut of Big Boss, Japanese cut of Way of the Dragon, and Hong Kong cuts of both Game of Death and Game of Death 2, aka Tower of Death. It's also got never before deleted scenes from Big Boss, not including the infamous saw in the head scene. There is a featurette on that though that's still lost, surprisingly, but don't think we're ever going to get that scene ever. But who knows, right? I didn't think we were ever going to get a box set over here in the UK, because this is why it's particularly exciting as a UK fan, is because we've been kind of poorly served with Bruce Lee releases, right? I mean, Jackie Chan's been getting great treatment recently through 88 Films and Eureka, but Bruce Lee we've kind of been feeling a bit left out, right? You know, he's only the preeminent kind of martial arts movie star of the 20th century, really, and you know, Criterion had that. It looked like an amazing box set. I was pretty jealous when that came out. What, 2019, 20, I think. But I'm not, I'm not into like multi-region collecting anymore. I used to do multi-region DVDs, collect those when I was younger, but I don't have the time / money, can't be bothered anymore. So I've been sitting here waiting patiently for this Bruce Lee set. It's kind of like the release of the year for me, quite easily, being a massive fan. So a bit background about my history of Bruce Lee. The first time I heard of him was probably when I was about 6 years old, I think. And my older brother came down. I was playing in the garden, family home, and he came down, my older brother, and he said, "You heard of this guy called Bruce Lee? He's an actor, movie star kind of thing. Have you heard of him?" I said, "Yeah, sure." He said, "Really?" I said, "Yeah, of course." He said, "Oh, he's amazing. He kicks so much ass. I don't think you have seen him, but come on." And I was like, "No, I'm sure I have." And as he was describing him more and more, it turned out that in my head I was thinking of Bruce Wayne the entire time, Batman. So, yeah, I was clearly wrong, and I was surprised to see that when he put on what was Enter the Dragon, which he recorded on VHS off the telly, that he was Chinese, not white, which is actually very important. I'll get to that in a second. But so as it turned out at the time, Channel 4 was showing this kind of like retrospective season of martial art films, including Jackie Chan releases. And I think the first one they showed, I think, was Enter the Dragon, maybe. And they showed all of his Hong Kong films as well. So Big Boss through to the 78 version of Game of Death, because at this time, the complete footage that Lee had of the fight scenes wasn't actually properly unearthed. That came in like the early noughties, around 2003, 2004, courtesy of the Lee biographer John Little, I think. But and I just remember seeing Enter the Dragon, being absolutely blown away by his screen presence, his magnetic screen presence, his charisma, which even to this day, I think there's very few actors or movie stars that match that. It was just unbelievable. And yeah, I managed to then see all the Hong Kong releases, subtitles as well. This is a kind of interesting dual thing for me, is that Bruce Lee was probably the first non-white actor that I really saw, and that's a big deal, right? Because I think early on that kind of like was foundational in my kind of my personally my anti-racism, in seeing that there's this guy on screen kicking so much ass. It was very empowering. It was like a hero figure, and has been to Asian people, Asian Americans, African Americans as well. He was very big in, but that might have something to do with Enter the Dragon and its kind of blaxploitation crossover. But and at the same time, they were the first films that I saw that were subtitled. And as I say, Bruce Lee's been very poorly served on kind of home video. That shows my age, doesn't it? On a kind of home release, he's been very poorly served. So we had like these awful kind of VHS dubbed versions that came out in the late 90s, which I hated because I was used to the subtitled, and I've always had a preference for subtitled and hating dubbed to this day. That probably goes back to my exposure to Bruce Lee, really. Then we had like the 35th anniversary DVD box set, which was like a black hardbound case that opened up, which had all of them but Enter the Dragon in, I think. That was a really good set, limited edition. My brother owned it, I didn't. I was very jealous. I was too late to get it. It was out of print by then. Curiously, I've never owned any Bruce Lee films on physical media at all, which is crazy considering how long I've been a fan of him. So this is like very exciting for me to kind of get into this release and getting watch these films. I think that's like I think it's more exciting, right, than watching, as a film fan. I don't know if you'd agree, but more exciting than watching new films sometimes is watching the films that you grew up with and loved, and then having the memories of those and seeing how your memories intertwine with kind of new experiences and maybe like new scenes and alternate cuts. I think it's really exciting when you kind of know the films so well. Because I've seen all of these films probably a dozen times each, and yet interestingly I haven't seen them all the way through in so many years. So it's going to be a great experience for me. And like I said, what I'm going to do is do a review of each one individually and do a video talking about each one. So I'll start with the Big Boss and work through chronologically. I'll probably do separate ones for Game of Death, the 78 version, and then the 40 minutes of Lee fight footage. Interestingly, on here, one of the special features is a video essay. I think it's called what is it called on here? So we've got Legend of the Dragon, which is an 82-minute overview by Tony Raines. He's always informative and very knowledgeable, so that would be probably really interesting. The Final Game of Death, which is a brand new feature-length video essay on Lee's original vision of Game of Death by Arrow Films. Reportedly, I think it could be anywhere between 3 to 5 hours long. So that sounds really fascinating. It's going to have all of the cuts and the outtakes of everything that Lee shot, I think, and in the form of video essays. So I don't know if it's going to be like commentary alongside the footage. Either way, it's going to be fascinating to look at. As a Lee fan, I'm really excited by that. And like I said, Enter the Dragon, Warner Brothers are going to be releasing 4K Steelbooks collector's editions of that, I think in September. So for completists, you can kind of get that then if you want that in 4K as well. But this is the set to have, I think. Just before I've even seen it, I think this is the set to have. I mean, it's gorgeous to look at, like I said. I mean, it's just, it's pretty stunning, right? And I can't wait to delve into it over the next few weeks. I'll try and do a video every couple of days and upload it. So kind of deep dive into each of the films, because I'll probably have some interesting insights and opinions, recollections of each film, which would be really cool to talk about and share. Hopefully you guys can share as well, like what was your first experience of Bruce Lee, your first exposure to him? Or are you getting this box that haven't seen none of his works, which is in its own way really exciting, and I'd be kind of jealous in a way of that kind of experience. But I still, like I said, still have the fond memories in the 90s watching crappy VHS recordings, which brought about its own interesting experiences, which I can get into on each one. Like I say, I'll start with The Big Boss and work my way through. Of course, they have confusingly different titles in the US. So when I say The Big Boss, I mean, yeah, the first film that Lee made, and then Fist of Fury, and then Way of the Dragon, and then Enter the Dragon and Game of Death. But I might, if I can stomach it, watch Game of Death too. I even have issues with the 78 version of Game of Death. I think it's like one of the most morally dubious films made, but it has its positives as well. But we'll get into that when we review it. But yeah, let me know. Let me know your thoughts on what you think of Bruce Lee. Like you say, first exposure to him. What you think of the set, maybe. And I can't wait to kind of explore it with you guys. So it'd be really, really cool. But thanks for watching. I hope you catch me for the review of The Big Boss. Take it easy.